Go ahead, Roger. We're eager to hear the horror story of our time.
Okay, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Would you all please turn off your cell phones? I have to say, I was wondering whether this topic was going to be old news, that nobody would really be that interested in anymore. It turns out you are interested in it. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Karen and Al for everything that they do to put this on, and of course Sam and Anders. To start out with, I want to go on the University House time travel machine back to the night of November 5th, 2024. It was election night. I was in my apartment watching the election returns. It's about 11 o'clock, and I was coming to this conclusion that Donald Trump was in the process of being elected president. To say I was dumbfounded of this event is an understatement. So first of all, why was I dumbfounded? I originally was going to do this list off the top of my head, but then I realized it was so long that I was in danger of my old brain not being able to keep it all in its proper place. So this is why Donald Trump should not have been elected president. He cavorted with a porn star while his pregnant wife was at home, then paid her hush money to stay quiet. When I reread this, I don't mean that he paid Melania hush money. What's in it for Melania is that's another Saturday matter. But anyway, he illegally took and mishandled top secret documents, and as a result is a convicted felon. He tried to alter the vote count in Georgia's 2020 presidential election. He was found guilty of sexual abuse in the E. Jean Carroll case. He shattered our relations with our allies, including encouraging Russia to do whatever the hell they want to NATO members who miss defense spending targets. He believes in using the federal Justice Department, the federal court system, and the FCC as tools of retribution against his perceived enemies. He has no interest in environmental and climate issues. He pathologically lies, exaggerates, makes promises to instantly fix problems that he either intends to ignore or has little knowledge of. He directed his minions to attack the U.S. Capitol building in order to overturn the certification of a lawful election. The last one, to me, is the most serious. The United States historically has been a beacon for the rest of the world for the way that we have a peaceful transition of power. But despite all this, he's our president. Okay, first of all, let me just kind of run down the actual election itself. The 2024 presidential election was decided in 7 swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Trump won all 7. Joe Biden won 6 of the 7 in 2020, all except North Carolina. Things have obviously changed by 2024. These states went for Trump because of swing voters. A swing voter is a person who entered the final weeks of the election without deciding which way to vote. Estimates suggest there were between 3.3 million and 4.1 million total swing voters in the key swing states. And what I mean by this is like if you take all those states, that's the number of swing voters that were in there. Had Kamala Harris won these states by a comfortable margin, the swing voters would have been irrelevant. The Democrats have lost their connection with millions of voters across the country. Donald Trump found a new way to connect with voters. He was able to leapfrog the established media with their analysts and reporters. He could say whatever he wanted with no consequences. The last statement is crucial to understanding my message. In years past, if you were a politician and you were running for office, you would have a rally, you would have press conferences at which at the press conference, the reporters would actually ask the questions. Then the politician would give the answer. The reporter would go back to the newspaper or the TV station, talk to their editor. If there was something that seemed to be not true, they would bring in experts to refute whatever had been said by the politician. So there was all of these checks and balances on what information and news we were getting. Donald Trump, from the very beginning, before he was president, realized that the established news outlets were never going to take him seriously. So to go through the established process was going to be a waste of time. And to his credit, he was smart enough to realize the power of social media. So from the very beginning, he was on Twitter, had millions of followers. And he could be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just say the most outlandish stuff. It would go viral on the internet. No checks on it, no editors, no experts. It was just out there. So how I'm going to divide up this talk is into really 3 parts. I'm going to talk about the U.S. population and how it's changing. This is really, it's hard for us living in University House to know what's going on, because this is not representative of the U.S. population. In fact, this is a superior group to the normal, regular U.S. population. So I'm going to talk about that. Then I'm going to talk about a subgroup of the U.S. population, which is the independent voters. And then I'm going to talk about a subgroup of the independent voters, which are these swing voters. But first of all, this is from the very beginning caught my attention. First of all, I have to make a confession. I do not go through life without a book. I just simply cannot exist without a book. I always have one going. I read during the day, I read just before I go to sleep. Been doing it my whole life. According to the LA Times, daily reading for pleasure is down 40% in the last 20 years. The percent of the general population who read books, in 2004, this is 25 years ago, 28%, now that's down to 16%. For black book readers, 25 years ago, they were 20% of their population, and now that's down to 9%. And I had already done my, research and put this all together, and then about 2 weeks ago, I read this in the Seattle Times, and this is a reprint from the New York Times. In American high schools, the age of the book may be fading. 12th grade reading scores are at their historic lows. It's believed that in the near future, even the most sophisticated stories and knowledge will be imparted mainly by audio and video. Teachers point towards the curriculum. Products their schools had purchased from major publishers often revolve around students reading short stories, articles, and excerpts from novels, but not the novels themselves. So, if they're not reading books, where are they getting their news and information? So I said I was going to talk about the U.S. population. We're going to start off with Gen Z. I bet there's a whole bunch of people in this audience that have grandkids in this group. The Gen Zers are currently 13 to 28 years old. And you can see the picture of them right there, all looking at their phones. This generation uses social media heavily, especially TikTok, which has 41.4 million monthly users. 95% of teens actively use it, 16% almost constantly. TikTok is a Chinese-owned smartphone app launched in 2016 where users can submit videos. It's not just videos, it's also, they can exchange information, conspiracy theories, whatever they want. They also use Instagram, Snapchat, X, and Reddit. These are all social media platforms that they're on all the time. When you see all these kids looking at their phone, that's what they're doing. And when we have the question and answer period at the end, I don't want anybody to ask me what's the difference between all of these social media platforms, because I haven't got the slightest idea. They like short news items and videos, which they get on their social media. These are just little short, like little tidbits from their friends, things they get, from podcasts that they're following. But they aren't complete airheads. They are concerned about sustainability, climate, and social causes. I have, my granddaughter is part of this group, and she has told me that, in her opinion, we have trashed this planet. I think she might have something, going for her on that. Okay, the next group is the millennials. They're currently 29 to 44 years old. Now, there's something that's happening. This you may not really notice until you get into it. So the Gen Zers are on TikTok and Instagram and all this other stuff. This is the first time we run into Facebook. To the Gen Zers, Facebook is for old people. Okay, but the millennials, they do use Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a social media platform for career connections. 71% report daily use of these sites. They listen to podcasts more than any other generation group. They use traditional newspapers and TV news, but not as a primary source. Older millennials are more likely to use these sources. They are weighed down by student debt, child care costs, they have postponed marriage, and have fewer children. Some of them are still living at home. Now, you see what their concerns are. you're a politician, come up with something that you can do to help them out. Okay, the next generation, Generation X, currently 45 to 60 years old. A lot of our kids are in this generation. And so, because they are our kids, we remember the world changing as they grew up. They grew up with traditional media, but went digital later in life. They experienced the rise of personal computers, the internet, email, cable TV, MTV, and the early stages of social media. They have profiles on both long-standing and emerging social networks. 92% have a profile on Facebook. They spend an average of 1.5 hours a day on social media. They hold 51% of the leadership positions worldwide. Another thing I have to just point out with my granddaughter, I said, why don't you send me an email? And she said, nobody does email. And I didn't know that. You know, if I want to communicate with her, I have to send her a text message. Okay, now this is the baby boomers, and I'm going to make an announcement. I am at the very top end of this group, and so I lived this experience. Older boomers came of age during the Cold War, Vietnam, and the Civil Rights eras. They created generational thinking, a relatively new phenomenon. The aspirations of their parents, marriage, stable jobs, respect for authority, home ownership, and children were challenged. The resulting culture strife was difficult for their parents to understand. This is all really pretty much late 60s, early 70s. And if you were like college age at that time, the Vietnam War hung over you like a dark cloud, every day, every minute. Because of that, instead of being the patriotic, young guys of World War II, this group burned their draft cards. This is also the era of the rise of the women's movement, where college-age girls began to say, hey, I'm not sure I want to aspire to be a stay-at-home mom. So that, in other words, the guys were burning their draft cards, the girls were burning their bras. We experimented with illegal drugs. This was the age of almost perfect birth control, so sex was just a normal part of dating. If you got a sexually transmitted disease, this is pre-AIDS, you just go downtown to the public health, get a shot, it's gone. You don't get married, you move in together. The shock to our parents with this generational change was incredible. Although boomers are comfortable with new technology, few get their news from social media. They have a heavy reliance on local and national TV for their news. They read newspapers. They prioritize credible, well-established sources. They prefer detailed rather than bite-sized information. 78% use Facebook to stay connected with friends and family. So they're using Facebook, but not to get news and information. They're using it to connect with, their sister in North Carolina. They also, they read books, they read newspapers. They want lengthy explanations of what's happening. How many of you thought this was a picture of the San Juan Road? Huh? Anyway, so then we have the silent generation, currently 80 and older, described as trending towards conformity and traditionalism. They grew up listening to vacuum tube radios. They were children during the Great Depression and World War II. They tend to believe in working within the system. It's very difficult. Yeah, this is important. It's very difficult to find online statistics about how this generation gets their news. The network nightly news seems to be targeted to this audience and is sponsored by drug and insurance companies. The news sources this generation has relied upon their whole lives are slowly fading away. When I went, how I did this was I would go onto the internet myself and I would, say, like put into Google, how does like Gen Z get their information and news? And then there was all these articles and polls and stuff. There's almost nothing about this generation. It's like this generation that is not important. It's like they're invisible. I hope I just, really uplifted you. Okay, so that's the U.S. population in total. Now I'm going to talk about the voters. And as you can see, in the year 2000, this is 25 years ago, 37% identified as independent, 32% Republican, 31% Democrat. And then 25 years later, now, independents had grown substantially and both Republicans and Democrats had lost support. So, for the purpose of this talk, we're trying to find out why Trump won the election. In my mind, the 28% Republicans would never vote for Kamala Harris. The 27% Democrats would never vote for Donald Trump. So let's take them totally out of the equation. The election is going to be won or lost with the independents. So who are they? And I found this is from in a CNN Gallup poll, and I just love these descriptions. You have, among the independents, you have the Democrat and Republican lookalikes, upbeat outsiders, disappointed middle, and the uninterested. As I said, these people, the Democrat and Republican lookalikes, what this means is that like if you're a Democrat lookalike, you probably vote 90% Democrat. I have to say, most of my life, I would consider myself a Democrat lookalike because I have voted for Republicans if I thought they were the better candidate. And so they really aren't going to be crucial to the presidential election because they're probably going to vote the way they look alike. Okay, then you have the upbeat outsiders. They're mostly urban, 37% of lower income and not greatly interested in politics. They're mostly under 50. 42% are the parents of children under 18. They like the Republicans on the economy, immigration, crime, and policing. They like the Democrats on abortion and affirmative action. Only 30% say that it's extremely important to vote in national elections. So the message is, with the upbeat outsiders, first of all, these are young families and young singles. They're having a tough time. Imagine being a recent college graduate in the city of Seattle and, even just trying to rent an apartment. But for some reason, both the Republicans and the Democrats have completely failed to connect with these people. They feel that it doesn't really matter who's, in charge. It's not going to help my life at all. The disappointed middle. The majority have voted for an independent or a third-party candidate sometime in the past. They are engaged politically, but disappointed in both parties. Almost half say both parties are too extreme. They tilt slightly Republican, with more voting for Trump than Harris. 35% lean Republican, 20% lean Democrat, and 45% express no preference. They lean Republican on crime, policing, gender identity, trans people, immigration, and DEI, and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. 62% are males, of which 64% are white males, 42% are in the 30 to 49 age group. This is another example of a group of independent voters that neither party seems to be connecting with at all. And then we have the uninterested. This was my favorite. If you look at the picture on the upper right, this is from the equipment and the tires. This looks like about a World War II picture of a tire shop. Just a little tidbit of information, during World War II, you couldn't buy new tires. All of the tire production went to the military, so all you could buy was retreads. These guys in this picture look like roughly half of all of the employees I ever had. And they fit this profile so perfectly. They were interested in their cars, drinking beer. They'd have a girlfriend, she gets pregnant. They're behind on their child support. They are the uninterested. And most of them never voted. They complained all the time about everything. But they felt that nobody was, no politician was ever going to do anything for them. Then the other two pictures are, young adult fast food workers. And they probably feel that they're on the fast road to nowhere. So, very few voted in the 2024 presidential election. Many never vote. 90% say no politician or political party speaks for them. They don't care who controls the government. They're 42% male, 58% female. They are 45% white, 25% Hispanic, and 17% black, 75% are under 50. So actually they're a good cross-section of the American population racially. And again, if I was a politician, this is a perfect group of people to try to connect with, to try to convince them that you can do something to actually make their life better. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about 3 nonprofit organizations. And the one at the top, the first one I'm going to talk about is NARAL, the National Abortion Rights Action League. I know a lot about this organization because my wife Carol belonged to it for years and years. We donated a lot of money to it. And the reason for that was for Carol, abortion rights, reproductive rights, the right to choose was probably right at the very top of the issues that she still cares about. So, and you have up at the upper right a pro-choice demonstration in front of the Supreme Court. Okay, this is a statement from NARAL just before the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. If your feminism doesn't include trans women and girls, it's not feminism. If your feminism doesn't understand how anti-trans policies disproportionately impact BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, People of Color folks, particularly Black trans women and girls, it's not feminism. That statement we could all have an interesting discussion about, but my question is, what's this got to do with the right to choose? This is the second group I want to talk about. One that I also really admire. This is from the Sierra Club. This is a picture of when I imagine the Sierra Club. I think of this scene. You got this group of hikers, and they're just out there in the wilderness, and it's incredibly beautiful. I can't confirm or deny that the middle hiker is Kay, but it could be. I mean, what a wonderful group. You know, they want to protect our wilderness. Okay, this is a statement from Aaron Mayer. He was the Sierra Club president in 2015, and this is their mission statement. Promote environmental health of all communities, especially those communities that continue to endure deep trauma from a legacy of colonialism, genocide, land theft, enslavement, racial terror, racial capitalism, structural discrimination, and exclusion. I have two questions. First, what has this got to do with saving the wilderness? And my second question is, what the hell is racial capitalism? I thought I was going to get a laugh out of that one, but you are, this is not real funny stuff, is it? Okay, this is the third organization I want to talk about. Earth Justice is not as famous or well known as the first two, but anyway, they are a liberal nonprofit, and their mission statement is to protect the planet and the people and wildlife that call it home to fight climate change. That sounds great to me. I would actually sign up for this one. Okay, Abigail Dillon, Earth Justice President. Systematic racism and social injustice are at the root of the environmental problems we are trying to address. I didn't know that. I thought it was like fossil fuel, overpopulation and that kind of stuff. I was obviously wrong. A former Earth Justice staffer made this statement. For the most part, people funding Earth Justice signed up to protect the polar bears, not defund the police. Finally, I got a little bit of a laugh out of it.
The actual name, one word.
Okay, now, so we've talked about the total U.S. population, and we've talked about the independent voters. When it came down to, like I said, the election was won by Trump in the swing states because of, and the vote in the swing states was so close that the swing voters, how they went one way or the other, they were going to decide the election. Swing voters broke for Trump 52% versus 30, okay, first, that's supposed to be 48% up there. On all of these tops, I put in one mistake. Just to see if you're paying attention. Anyway, so it's 52 to 48, breaking for Trump. Close to half made their decision in the final weeks, including 27% in the final days. When interviewed, they felt the Democrats were too focused on identity politics, not doing enough to address crime, and too focused on fighting Trump rather than bringing the country together. So these voters were so crucial to the election that numerous polls have been written about them, and this is what I'm going to tell you right now is a composite of really pretty three polls that I really have a lot of confidence in. So after the election, a number of respected polls showed similar results. Okay, so this is what the swing voters believe. 73% believe Democrats aren't tough enough on the border crisis. 73% also felt Democrats support immigrants more than the American citizens. 72% believe Democrats don't care about securing the border. 75% believe the Democrats supported allowing illegal immigrants convicted of crimes to stay in the U.S. 72% believe Democrats want to defund the police. So where are they getting these opinions? Social media. %6 believed Harris supported abortions up to the day of birth. 67% thought Democrats supported reparations for slavery. 77% believed Democrats felt children under 18 should be allowed to transition genders without informing their parents. 83% believed the Democrats wanted to mandate all new cars be electric by 2035. 73% thought the Democrats don't know how to manage the economy. 59% believed the Democrats were unwilling to tackle inflation. 65% thought the Democrats support out-of-control deficit spending. 54% believe Democrats are unwilling to stand up for working people. 73% thought the Democrats want to take money from hard-working Americans and give it to immigrants. 59% believe the Democrats only care about a small group of elites. I repeat. And you're thinking, this is outlandish. But all you have to do is have one podcaster or one person tell somebody else, that Kamala Harris supports abortion up to the day of birth, and it goes viral. And these people believed it. As I said, the swing voters are getting their news sources outlined early, from the sources outlined earlier. Okay. Another news information source, a person that I respect, is Max Tanney, media editor of Semaphore. It's a political website founded in 2022 by a former media columnist at the New York Times. and the former CEO of Bloomberg Media Group. Democrats in key battleground districts are failing to reach Americans online. They have been unable to adapt to the current social media landscape. A significant number of Democrats up for re-election in 2026 have let their personal and campaign social media go dormant. If they can adapt, they should retire. Now, does this guy look like a politician? This is Seth Moulton. He's a member of Congress, Democrat from the state of Massachusetts. In an interview with the New York Times after the 2024 election, the congressman said, "Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or former male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that." So what was the reaction to these statements by the congressman? Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey said Moulton is playing politics with people and picking on vulnerable children. Steve Kerrigan, Massachusetts State Democratic Party Chair. These comments do not represent the broad view of our party. Moulton's campaign manager resigned in protest. Liz Bratt, chair of the Salem Democratic City Committee. Moulton is a Nazi cooperator. There's an incredible irony here. In Congressman Moulton's district is the city of Salem, Massachusetts. They don't have a good track record on tolerance. And it seems like they still got a problem with it. Okay. Then underneath the picture, 69% of Americans oppose trans athletes' participation in sporting competitions that don't match their birth gender. Now, for those of you who were lucky enough to see Sam's presentation on trans issues, what I learned was that the birth gender determination is not easy. Sometimes it's very unclear. So that's kind of the medical side of it. But the political side of the whole argument is that 69% of Americans think that you believe that you are assigned a gender at birth, and that if you were assigned male gender, you shouldn't be on a women's basketball team. Whether you agree with that or not, you need to be able to connect with people and convince them about the reality of this issue. I don't know if that made any sense, but okay. Now, in terms of the trans, issue itself, the Republican Party spent $215 million attacking Harris just on this one issue during the 2024 campaign. Now, I want to talk to you about what I call the ad. Most of the people in this room have never seen this ad. The reason is that because of our electoral college system, all of the emphasis of the two different campaigns is put into the swing states. That's where all the advertising is done. We don't. Everybody kind of knows Washington is going to, in a presidential election, the state of Washington is going to go Democrat. So we don't even get Kamala Harris coming out here to have a rally. All she does is go to the east side and try to get money out of a bunch of billionaires. This is just, and I'm not putting her down about this. This is just the reality. So we never saw this ad. The ad aired more than 30,000 times in every swing state. It was aired where likely swing voters would be watching. NFL games, college football, NASCAR races. According to CBS News, the Trump campaign overall paid $19 million to air the ad nearly 55,000 times between October 1st and 16th, 2024. Kamala Harris never reacted to the ad. So what was it? It showed Kamala Harris giving an interview in 2019 to the National Center for Transgender Equality. During the interview, she stated her approval of using taxpayer money for gender-affirming surgery for prisoners. The last line of the ad, which you can see in the lower right picture, Kamala is for they/them, not you. That's my talk.
Was very informative. Who wants to have a question or a comment? Charlie.
Roger, this is truly excellent presentation, but you know, as I was thinking, as you can imagine about what you're going to say today, I pretty well imagined what you were going to say today, and you said it. I, however, did think that what we really needed to have before you spoke today is why did KTJT win the Republican nomination? Big question.
Yes, and that's it's a God, I have to be really careful on this. What I consider to be the betrayal of Joe Biden. Imagine if he was president right now. The fact that Kamala only had 107 days to campaign, that was part of it. The other thing is that she had in 2020, when the year that Joe Biden won, she had been a candidate, and the voters rejected her. It was just that, the disaster of the Democratic Party, in 2024 is a huge part of it. But to me, what I was zeroing in on was and what that created was the election being so close. Even with all the bad things that Donald Trump had done. But the election was that close, and so I was zeroing in on the swing voters. I was really trying to understand why they voted like they did.
Charlie wants a follow-up.
I'm sorry, I think that Karen needs to schedule a session on the failure of the Republican Party to come to terms with its historic role in American life. And there's a great deal to say about that that we haven't covered today. The Republican Party, I have never been a Republican, but I have always understood that they were people of integrity. Donald Trump is not a man of integrity.
I'll be happy to schedule anyone who has an interest in that subject.
Yeah, but the thing is, Charlie, he won.
He won. He won the popular vote this time.
Yeah. More Americans voted for Donald Trump than Kamala Harris.
So what's your advice for the Democratic Party now? Is it to start a college for social influencers and talk show mavens?
I think there's a lot of the, when I did my talk about, up and coming Democrats, there's these guys and women, they get what's going on. They know where the whole, train went off the rails. And what they need to do is get the train back on the rails. They need to be able to connect with all of these people that I was talking about that have tuned out politics, that think that it doesn't really matter who gets elected. They need to convince these people that governments can actually help them. And the thing is, I'm not saying that the social issues are not important. They are. But you got to get the right person in office, and then, that can be, kind of one of the things they work on among a lot of other things.
Your commentary about the new person in New York City, Donnie. Yeah, he seems quite different from some of the ways you portrayed the issues.
Well, I think, first of all, we have a similar situation here in Seattle. And in both cases, I'm going to be very curious to see that they may be, I'm hoping for good things out of both of them. And if they surround themselves with qualified people, I think there's a good chance that things are going to go well. I consider the new mayor of New York City to be a person of integrity. And so let's hope he does a good job.
With all of these algorithms and the silos we all live in, how do we break into those other silos? To get to the people that are watching these things we don't know about.
Yeah, that making the connection and being able to convince people that the government can be helpful in their lives. I think that's the job of the politicians. And if they don't understand that, then they are doomed to failure over and over again. Yes, Patty.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. I think your focus on social media is really excellent. And I think we also need to look at the Republicans taking over the media landscape as part of this bigger picture, and that they're succeeding at it right now, that they have the power by just taking over our right to speech by consolidating media corporations in their favor. And there's so much other big things going on that relate to what you brought up.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that the Republicans have come up with to suppress the vote. And it's, as far as this talk is concerned, like I just concentrated on, the leading up to the election. All of the chaos, including what's happening right now, is something else, and that's. But again, it's the Democrats' responsibility to convince the people to inform them and convince them of what's going on. I don't know if that answers your question, but it.
My other thought, she's a woman.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good question. Can we elect a female president? I have to say, in my research of the swing voters, that was not a big issue.
Thank you, Sam.
Sorry.
That's really too bad because I really said some profound stuff.
You did. Okay, you're next.
I receive, on average, 25 to 30 emails every single day from Democratic candidates, organizations, and luminaries begging me for money. Every single one of those messages is nothing but anti-Trump propaganda. Nowhere do I see what we, the Democrats, are doing to win back the constituencies that drifted far to the right in November. And so I told them a number of times, I'm not giving you any more money until you shape up. So far, zero response. And I have to wonder, are they, the Democratic High Command, are they really getting the message? Do they understand why in hell's name they lost so badly in November of 24, and what the hell are they doing about it?
Everyone know that I have an article or op-ed in the Seattle Times.
Yeah, Doris, I read it.
Yeah, it says that the Democratic Party should move toward the center if it wants to get
Yeah.
the vote.
Yeah, it's in the Seattle Times on the editorial page, kind of lower left. Yeah, I was so proud of Doris.
Okay, we're a little bit over time, but I'll take one more.
Traditionally, the Democrats had looked after the working class, but that had what they're getting out of government has declined so intensively. Once upon a time, we were a rural society. It was easy for a politician to do something to uplift the working class. Now, something like 80% of all workers work for corporations, and they're not interested in anything but the bottom line. And so I question, what the hell can the Democrats do for this vast bunch of people they used to support and have now lost?
Well, something for all of us to ponder.
Yeah, but, like I keep saying, the Democrats just need to be able to connect. There's a whole bunch, like all of that list that the swing voters believed. That needs to be fought against. And at a certain point, I know what went wrong, and I hope the Democrats get the message and do something about it. It's really as simple as that.
Okay,
I would like to just
Yes.
We've run over time, but okay, you got the
I'd
mic.
like to just say one more thing. For those of you who don't listen to the news all the time, this morning, well, late last night, the United States military kidnapped Maduro and his wife and arrested them and then bringing them to the United States. So that's a little bad news for everybody to know.
Oh, yeah, but we're gonna run now.
And we're gonna take the country over and run it properly.
Yeah, we're gonna send the geniuses who are running our country now down there to, okay, I know everybody has more to say about this, and we probably will. Let me just make one comment. Peter Curtis put on a very fascinating video, and I noticed that evening at dinner, we were talking about it at our table. The people at the next table were talking about it. The people at the next table were talking about it. I have to cut off the discussion now, but it isn't going to stop.